the idea is that you can focus so intensely that nothing else is getting in the way and every bit of your brain power is being used on this one thing. Have you ever heard of something called deep work? The first time I heard this was by Bill Gates. He talked about how the way that he built Microsoft in the first place was the ability to go into deep work, and that this is the biggest skill, the most important skill to have as a member of the information age workforce, is to be able to focus so intensely on the thing that you're doing and focus all of your brain power on completing whatever the task at hand is. For a long time, the prevailing wisdom, and sometimes in some circles still is, that multitasking is an extremely good skill. Businesses think it's a good idea to have their employees multitask, and a lot of them are waking up now to the fact that multitasking is actually really, really inefficient. It's much better to focus really intensely on one task at a time, and then focus on another task, and then focus on another task, and then focus on another task. Part of this is called batching, where you take, like, say, your email. Don't look at your email all day, and then at the end of the day, get through all of your emails at once. I call it mail pile zero or email zero. I put all of my mail for the week off to the side. I don't worry about it. And then at the end of the week, I go through all of it and get it all done in like 15 minutes. Instead of doing it throughout the week and getting sidetracked and all of this other stuff, what I really want to talk about here is not necessarily just not multitasking, but really applying deep work, which this is something that I'm still working on. But when I am able to achieve it, the things that I can pull off is just amazing in such short amount of time. Because the idea is that you can focus so intensely that nothing else is getting in the way and every bit of your brain power is being used on this one thing. And part of it is having a timeline for it. So for me, I set a timeline for myself and I say, I want to work on this thing for 2 hours, and that's the only thing that I'm going to work on, and I'm going to get it done in this 2 hours. And more often than not, I get it done in those 2 hours. I have some rules here that I usually go through, because in the book Deep Work, which I will link down in the description below, he talks about setting yourself rules and kind of preparing your space and area, kind of getting yourself into this routine of how to prime your mind for deep work. For me, I have, because I try to do this early in the morning when I still have the most mental energy, I make sure I eat something right off the bat, and I get my coffee, and I clean my workspace off so there's nothing else distracting me except the thing that I'm working on. And a lot of time my desk ends up looking completely empty and just having one sheet of paper on it, or maybe a few notes or something. A couple rules I have for myself, and this is part of that book, is it talks about setting yourselves rules and sticking to those rules. That's really important. Is no internet unless the task specifically requires that I need internet. I completely just shut my Wi-Fi off and I don't allow myself to turn it back on until I'm done. No communication, and this is a big one. I turn my phone on Do Not Disturb, which just drives people nuts, but like, I cannot be disturbed during this time, and I'll respond to you when I'm done with this thing if I remember to turn off my Do Not Disturb. This is a real struggle I have at my day job, which I hate calling it a day job because I do feel like it's a career. But my desk is literally the front desk of the radio station. So I get pulled in this direction, and this direction, and this direction, and I'd much rather have tasks come to me. And unless they're super urgent, like, I don't need to be distracted with that right now. I'm working on something. And that's just a little pet peeve of mine. And eventually, as I get my own space to work in, I can kind of set those boundaries for myself. But when I'm working from home, I make sure my phone is off. I close my door and it says, Do Not Disturb. Everyone in my house knows. Leave him alone. He's working. The third rule I have for myself, and this is huge, is fully solving the problem before the deep work session is done. And the reason for this is if you just keep breaking it up into pieces, you'll never really get much done. If you are putting all of your mental faculties to work to get this thing solved in 2 hours, it's amazing how often you can get that thing solved. And if you absolutely cannot get it done, or it's a project that needs broken up into tiny pieces, make sure you summarize the key points. If you're researching, summarize what you've learned. If you are testing something, summarize what you've learned. And if you are breaking something into smaller parts, set yourself these smaller goals and make sure that that problem is completely solved and you can move on from it. And that's part of the thing. I talked in another video about how you know if you're doing too much, or how I know if I'm doing too much, and I use Todoist to kind of be able to put out of mind all of the tasks that I'm not working on right at the moment. And that's a big part of this deep work thing. I'm able to say, this is what I'm working on, and I'm gonna get this thing done. And then I get that thing done and I can say, okay, that's done, and now it's out of mind. And that's a big part of this, is keeping your mind clear to be able to focus and be deeply involved in the thing that you're working on. I do take breaks to stretch and walk and read sometimes, and usually I try to read something that is either nonfiction and so away from what I'm working on, or fiction and also distant from the thing that I'm working on. And if I do any of these things, I try not to do them for more than 25 minutes, because then my body starts slowing down and I start thinking about other stuff, and then I get caught up in other things. So the summary here is, if you want to do deep work, and I highly recommend trying it, especially if you're a freelancer or something, just attempt to do these sessions where you block everything out and you focus on this one thing really intensely. And it might not work really well at first, but you'll get better at it and start to set rules for yourself to kind of prime your mind. Say, I'm eating breakfast, I'm eating coffee or drinking coffee, I cleared my workspace. Then your mind starts saying, okay, it's time to work. And then turn off your internet, don't allow communication, and get some stuff done. And that's like so much of what there is a squirrel out there right outside my window. Clearly I'm not working very deeply on this. And this is why I need these things, because my attention span often veers off in different directions if it's allowed to. But the point here is if you want to do deep work, the prep section, the priming of your mind is really important, and setting yourself these rules and not allowing them to distract you. And multitasking is bad. Don't multitask, it's so bad. Just don't do it. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.